myself. Thank you, sir. And you are?
I'm Blaine McLaughlin, the Chief Operating Officer for a division of a broker-dealer called Folio, and the division focuses on private securities. And normally I spend a lot of time on the phone talking with folks like you guys in this room about what we do and why we do it and how we might work together. So I thought I'd do less talking and more showing this time. Let's buy a private security. I'm logged into my online brokerage account. It's pretty easy to open. I won't make you sit through me typing my name, address, and phone number, social security number, date of birth, but that's how you have an open online brokerage account, is you put in that information. And I'm going to click Private Investing, and we'll give it a second to spin up, and then I'm going to see a choice of available private investments that are available for this account. And if I give it a second, the logo loads. In this case, there's one that's set up and available for me, so I'll click on it. It'll give me more information about it. A description of the offering is provided by the issuer. If I scroll down a bit, there's a section on describing the broker-dealer's role. In this case, Folio is the broker-dealer, so it describes that we're participating as a distributing member of the offering syndicate. And then below that is a crowd check report. So I don't think Sarah's here to give props to, but her firm puts those together. And as an investor, could take a look at that by clicking on it, and it pulls up the whole crowd check report, which is interactive, and you can look through every section of the due diligence that's been done. Not sure, it loaded pretty fast. So once I've read that and I've got a little bit more comfortable with the company, if I want to learn more, I click Learn More. Give it a second to load, and I think the next thing it's going to ask me is, am I rich? Today I am, so I'm going to click yes. But the reason it asks this is because this is a 506C offering as configured in the system, so it needs to know if I can participate in this offering or not. So I'm going to say yes. Click Continue. I'm going to touch on some things while the pages load. We're going to look at an offering document in a minute, and that offering document does not get printed. It does not get squiggled on. It does not get information filled in it. It's just the legal terms and conditions of the offering. Well, what do I do about all the rest of it? I'm doing the rest of it right now. I already put in my name, address, phone number, social security number, and date of birth in order to open an account. I don't have to put it in again. I just said I was accredited. And now I'm saying I'm suitable. 5 questions that I have to click yes to, that more or less I have the money, I don't need the money, I don't need the money back anytime soon, and if I never get the money back, I'll still be okay. For a self-directed platform like ours, where all the investors do their own thing, and we're not providing them advice and guidance, we don't feel like we have a suitability obligation in terms of making a specific recommendation. But, to quote my lawyer friends, out of an overabundance of caution, we have these questions anyway. And below that, and if you want, I'll go slow enough for you to read all the text, but you probably don't. Some terms that I'm going to agree to. I'm going to agree that private securities could be risky, could be illiquid, might not be the right thing for me. But if I'm okay with that, I click Agree. And now I get to see some offering documents. In this case, for this particular offering, there's one offering document. It's a 164-page PDF, which I can click on and look at. And incorporated in that PDF is the subscription agreement and any other documents that the issuer wanted to provide and wants the customer to agree to. While that's loading, I'll click back to the other page so we can take a look at the important part for a second. There's a little box here. It says I agree. When I check that, that is my electronic signature to agreeing to the terms and conditions of the offering. That's it. It's not that hard. Now the 164-page PDF is still loading and may be loading for a while. The connection here is not super fast, but at some point I might click back on it. So I can continue because I've signed it. And the next page I'm going to get to is where I type in how much I want to subscribe for. It also has a little bit of a recap of some of the terms of the offering, still loading, such as what's the minimum investment amount for me as an individual, the maximum investment amount for me as an individual, the minimum amount that the company has to raise before they can close if it's a min-max type of an offering. In this case, it's a $5,000 minimum purchase, $250,000 minimum for the company to process a closing. A couple things of note on here. Offer expires December 31st. Cash is needed in the account no later than May 25th. And this security is not currently approved for custody in IRAs. Mr. Cinelli.
Question for you. In the review of a document like this, as part of your platform, can you track what's being read and what's not being read within the document itself?
No. We cannot. I mean, maybe there's some technology that would enable that. From the legal perspective, the person has to agree to the terms. You actually, there's some language that the SEC doesn't like to see of things like "I have read and understand," because that's not enforceable.
Experience to see what is being read, what's being skipped through, and so on and so forth. I don't think anybody wants to know that.
Well,
Complete opposite.
Now, the way, I mean, this is should be a huge issue, because the way it should be done is you should be able to track at least what sections of the offering materials the person has clicked on. So when they say they didn't know, you can say, well, that's interesting, because on March 27th at 5:30 p.m., you actually did click on that section.
What about the opposite guy who posts everybody who spends 5 minutes on all the docs?
I understand that, but no one has implemented any such technology. So all we do is
That's wrong. No.
There were some.
One of Blaine's partners sat on our board at Off-Road Capital years ago, and one of the things, we wrote the entire offering around the HTML to
Yes.
the PDF.
That's how you
And so you can actually track the readership pattern of the investor, and what we found is that enhanced the time an investor would view the content, and then skip around and see what was prevalent, what was missed, and so on and so forth. So I
Yeah.
was curious.
Steve Wallman still remembers that, and it's one of the concepts he would like to pursue. It actually comes back to a lot of folks here, because there are a lot of securities lawyers here, is every issuer goes out and gets their own counsel, and every counsel likes to produce their documents in their own way. So as a platform that's providing services, not just for our own customers, but for all the other broker-dealers, we get a hodgepodge, different documents, different shapes. This particular issuer chose to do one PDF with everything in it. Some of them choose to do 6 or 7 different PDFs. What we're tracking at this stage, at this level, is which user reviewed which documents at which time, and at what timestamp did they e-sign it. So the future court case is, I never saw that. Well, you agreed to the terms of this document at 3:47 p.m., or in this case, 3:25 p.m. You should have known. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that you had a ticker symbol.
I did have a ticker symbol in there.
Why was that?
I will totally answer that, but since I've got the offering document up, I'll click through it just a little bit and sort of evidence, without trying to do every page. Nowhere in here do you squiggle. There's no data capture in here. There's no fill in the blank. There's no checkbox. It's just the terms and conditions of the offering. So I'll make you dizzy if I go all 164 pages, so I won't do that. In terms of the details of the offering, what we do as a clearing broker is actually set up these private securities in our security master. So you had said earlier, most brokers won't take private securities, won't touch them, won't know what to do with them. As far as we know, very open to hearing news, we're the only clearing broker in the U.S. that will actually custody book entry, street name, private securities in online brokerage accounts. And we're about to see that. So in this case, I stopped with the IRA approved piece. If this issuer wished to be approved for custody in IRA accounts, they would ask for that, and we would have our partner do that, and it would be approved. This particular one is not, because they didn't want it to be. It's a relatively small offering. Some other offerings on our platform, such as the Enterprise Community Loan Fund and the Founder Equity Fund, a hedge fund of tech stuff, are IRA approved and do have IRA funds in them. So, enough talk. I said I would show. I pick which account I want the cash to come out of and the security to go into. In this case, I've only got one, so I don't have to do much. I type in my subscription amount. I'll make sure and type in a value that's greater than the minimum. You may notice here that I have no cash in this account, and it's going to let me do this. Why? Because the cash required by date is May 25th, not today. I still have 20 days to put the money in. Next thing I do is I scroll down a little bit, and I see there are some more terms associated with this offering.
How much did you buy, Blaine?
I typed in $6,000. I'll put your money in it. Pick a number.
To be able to say that.
You've been waiting. How about 60? How's that?
There's an issuer out there that's going to get an email, and we want him to be excited.
So if I didn't say it clearly enough, this is real. This is my account in production, and this issuer is going to see this subscription. Fortunately, Jim McDonald, the CEO of AIS, knows me, and won't be too disappointed if I happen to cancel my subscription, which I will show you in a minute as well. So,
He's one of the small investors everyone dislikes so much.
exactly. I'm one of those fickle investors, exactly. So I won't make you read all of these terms either, but the highlights are I'm making my own investment decision. I'm not being advised on what to do. And unlike when you buy a publicly traded security of Apple or IBM or Google, we're going to give your information to the issuer. They're going to see who you are. They're going to decide whether or not they want to accept your subscription request. And they're going to see your name and your holdings in their stock record going forward. Because in this case, AIS-1 will have a record at its transfer agent, ComputerShare, for example. But that record will probably be one line, Folio FN Investments Inc. for the exclusive benefit of customers. That's the mechanic of street name custody. So,
And if you're Carl Icahn, they might not let you invest.
the issuer has great flexibility in who it accepts or rejects in its offerings, and in most offering documents you will see the fine print of its at the issuer's sole discretion as to who they accept and how much they accept. So they may say, that Blaine guy, I don't want him to have that much ownership, he'll be too talkative, so I will accept his subscription but for a lower amount than requested. So they might say only accept $6. Well, in this case there's a minimum, $5,000. All right, so I am now subscribed. The issuer has just received a notice.
I noticed that it said if I'm an authorized representative of the investor. So
Yeah.
when someone is an authorized representative, do they have their own set of credentials when they log in, so you know whether it's the person or the representative?
Exactly. Each user has their own login credentials. I have my own. My registered investment advisor has his or her own. My broker-dealer has his or her own. But we have this language there to cover any scenario. Since this is a 506C offering and it requires verification of accredited investor status, not just this self-certification that I did earlier where I said I was having a really good day, you'll see down below here are the instructions. This is what to do to get certified, or verified, I should say. You can do one of the three methods that you've all heard of before. You can send in a letter from your CPA or attorney, you can send in your income documentation, or you can send in your asset documentation. We'll pull a credit report and calculate your net worth. Normal process, and once you've been verified, if you were to look at this page, instead of your status being unverified, it would be either verified or failed, and it would have a date, and that date would be a year out for an income verification, or it would be 3 months out for a net worth verification. If the pro letter comes in, it's going to say if you're verified either on net worth or income, and therefore the timeline's set on that. So I'm now subscribed. I have my instructions of what to do to send in documentation. Oh my God, I've changed my mind. That was the dumbest thing I ever did. What do? I click cancel. There is a cancel button. I can change my mind. And it worked. So I've now subscribed to and canceled an offering in a private security, including talk time. That might have taken 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I think the actual click time was probably far, far less than that. So that's an example of how easy it can be with an online platform powered by a clearing broker-dealer to work with a private security. Let's jump ahead in concept. The closing happens. What does that look like? There's an online holding in here. priv.ec011, which is a private security issued by the Enterprise Community Loan Fund. It's a debt security that's priced at $1 per share. This account has 100,000 shares sitting there. We've got lots of these. I just pulled up one as an example. This is in our test environment, this particular piece, so that we're not sharing any information about any real customers on this. That's book entry, street name, custody, and online brokerage account. If they had more private holdings, there'd be more rows in the table. If they had public securities, there'd be more rows in the table. On this page, you see Folio Institutional. On the other page, you saw Folio Investing. I'll go up so you can see it again. If you're a customer of Cambria Capital, you'd see Cambria. If you're a customer of ASMX, you'd see ASMX. If you're a customer of Seed Invest, you'd be on their website using our API and you'd see their name. So we offer a hosted solution for introducing broker-dealers and serial issuers. We offer an API-based solution for serial issuers and broker-dealers. So those are the big fun bits. If you want to throw a question at me, I'll do one more thing while I answer the question. Mr. Massey, I'm going to create a private offering, which is a web-based activity.
What does it cost a sponsor to have a hosted versus API solution?
Depending on what kind of volume you're going to do with us, we might be happy with our sort of regular base compensation over a period of time and not look for any sort of implementation fees. If you weren't looking at that much volume, we might have something on the order of a $5,000 or $10,000 setup charge for working with you on the API. Not because the API itself is hard, but the compliance reviews and the back and forth of, I don't know how this works, and I keep getting 403 errors, takes a lot of time for our tech staff. So we do have a nominal fee in there to make sure that we're covering costs.
Setup is all done, and then what am I paying, just an ongoing monthly? How does it?
Good question. If you're an issuer, which you are, working with an introducing broker-dealer, you're going to pay whatever they charge. Think investment bank kind of fees, some number of % for their full service package. If you're an introducing broker using the Folio platform, we work out something which is generally a number of basis points on close paid by the issuer or paid by the broker and from the fees they've already collected from the issuer for our platform. Big deals, lots of volume, lower price. Small deals, no volume, higher price on a percentage basis. Yes, Mr. Massey.
How does it differ with what you do at NASDAQ private market? I know they have some private shares on there, so what would be the difference?
In fairness, I have never seen what NASDAQ private market actually looks like. I've asked, and I don't know. I'm told that their focus is on unicorns, private companies with billion-dollar-plus valuations that meet a very specific set of sort of listing criteria that are on the path to being NASDAQ listed but aren't quite ready yet. That's a very different beast than we're talking about here, which is companies raising money and raising money far less than $1 billion at a shot. So I'm going to set up a security, and I'm happy to take another question while we do that. A little bit of Form D-like information, tell us about the offering. Then the next page, I'm going to do the sort of really important stuff. I'm going to pick my ticker. I'm going to put my security description, like IBM Common A. I'm going to say which states I'm registered in and which exemption I'm using. And by telling us which exemption you're using, it will allow us to coach you by saying, oops, you can't do 60 million under a Reg A Tier 2. That's too much. Or other little bit of helpful warnings like that. So let's say my company is ABC Company Common. My ticker is ABC1, and there's an automated check in there to make sure that that's not taken by somebody else already. Let's say I'm doing $20 per share or unit. Let's say I want to do a Reg A Tier 2, because that's what we're here for. It's an equity security. I'm going to make this available in, which lawyer would like to say? Do you want all states or all states and territories?
All states and territories.
All states and territories. Yes, sir. Side of the offer, we're going for the max, right? 50 million? And we're pretty confident, but we're not too confident. Let's make this an all or none offering. I have to raise at least 10 million. Okay, so it's a 10 million, 50 million min-max offering. Minimum purchase amount, how low do you want to go?
Gene wants $1.
I'm
$1,000.
going to go with Gene's suggestion of $1,000. Do you want to cap people out? Do you want to not have too much money in a small number of holders? No, not worried about one person taking the whole thing. No maximum. Do you want this? How long do you want to give yourself? How much runway? A year? Is that enough?
No, too long.
Too long. Well, this is not when you have to. This is not when you do your first closing. This is how long before we say, too bad, so sad, cancel the offer, you can't play anymore.
Well, is that date going to be shown? So
That date is shown. The expiration date was one of the fields we showed earlier.
Would you also show when the first closing would be? How soon could that be? Could that be next week, next month, next?
I don't know if you remember in the screen before where I typed in the dollar amount. It has expiration date and cash required by date. One could infer closing is going to be very soon after cash is required. So I have a choice. If I'm a really conservative issuer, I can check this box and say cash must be in the account at the time of the subscription in order for them to subscribe. Not just any cash, but enough cash. That's very conservative. One could say, go ahead and subscribe now and for the next month or two, and then I'm planning to do a closing, so let's make sure you have cash then. So let's say I put the cash required by date 300 days before the expiration. So on July 5th, I need to have the money in my account. What will happen before that? If you don't, you'll get an email reminder that says, please put the money in. What will happen if you get to that date and you haven't put the money in? We will cancel your subscription and send you a note that says, we're so sorry. If you still want to participate, you need to put money in first. Check, wire, ACH, push, pull, whatever that may be. It's a brokerage account, so you can fund it however you like. And then you can subscribe again. Last couple of little bits in setting up an offering. Now, we've really got all the big parts. Do you want to automatically syndicate this to all of the Folio Investing self-directed customers? Check. Do you want to automatically syndicate this to 500 plus RIA firms and dozens of broker-dealers that are on the Folio platform? Check. I just did a co-distribution syndicate. So that's most of setting up an offer. Next, if I want to be super conservative, maybe I'm a big hedge fund and I want to be more restrictive about who can participate than the law requires, I could put that in here and I could say, just give me quibs. I'm not going to do that. You could say they need prior private placement experience, but I'm not going to do that. And then this last little bit is, if you have a question as an issuer, or even as a broker, that you want to ask every single investor that isn't already captured, like, for example, you're a fund and you want to know, is the investor an entity formed solely for the purpose of investing in this offering and how many investors are in it? That's the look-through provision on funds. You might ask that question. You can set up that question with this automated question creator, and we'll ask every single subscriber that question, and the issuer will see on their issuer webpage the answer to every question like that. But for simplicity's sake, I won't make you make a question. I'll go ahead and save and publish this offering. And if I wanted to, I could go right back through and subscribe to it like we did before. I won't make you do that again. But that's pretty easy to set up an offering, right? Pretty easy to subscribe to an offering. And that's what we think is the power of using a brokerage account. Yes, ma'am?
No, I think that's great, but once the issuer goes in and sets up their offering, you guys have to approve it. So how long does that take?
How long can due diligence take? Depends a lot upon the quality of the documents that have been provided. Depends whether or not a third-party due diligence project has already been undertaken. Say, for example, an issuer were to employ a firm like Sarah Hanks Law Firm to produce its Reg A offering. They do their objective due diligence as part of that preparation. So by the time it gets to us, we have a qualified Reg A offering with objective due diligence completed. For us then to do the subjective due diligence, depending again on the details of the offering, could be very, very quick. You know, could be a number of days or week, something like that.
One more question.
Great. One more question.
All right. Thank you. Looks
All
like
right.
everybody's
Thank you.
satisfied.